Lighting, lighting, lighting. The way you render your art really makes a difference in the final result. You can have a good sketch. You can have the best line art in the world. And if you render it badly, you can ruin the piece. And trust me, I'm speaking from experience.
Hell no, man. What the fuck?
Yeah. Anyway, you clicked on this video because you want to improve your lighting. Skill issue. Fear not. I'm here to give you the basic rundown on how to properly render your drawings and take you from little art goblins and transform you into the art wizards you were always destined to be. Enough talking, let's get into it. Light has some interesting traits. Firstly, let's establish the simplest concept. Light only travels in straight lines. Light cannot bend around corners. I see many artists make this simple mistake of putting light on their character where it wouldn't be in real life. But because you're all goblins and your tiny little brains probably don't understand what I mean, I'm going to give you a visual example. So here's a ball. When light hits this ball, the part facing the light will be in light, and the side facing away will be in shadow. Shadow is just the absence of light. Wherever there isn't light, there is shadow, basically. Light cannot bend around the ball and hit the part in shadow. Now this is called form shadow because the form or shape of the object, in this case the ball, is preventing the face of the object away from light from getting hit with light, so it's in shadow. This is also a form shadow, as well as this. The second type of shadow is called cast shadow. Cast shadow is formed when one object blocks light from hitting another object. So this is a cast shadow, and this is a cast shadow, as well as this. That should have been simple enough to understand, I hope. If not, yeah, you might actually be cooked, bro. Anyway, congrats, you took your first step in evolving from an art amoeba that had no understanding of lighting. Now time to get a smidge more complicated. Now let's talk color. In order to do that, consider the spectrum of light. White light is the purest form of light. White light is basically all colors on the spectrum combined into one color. Color is formed when objects absorb all the colors in the spectrum except one. Just so your pea brains can understand what I mean, I'll give an example. Grass. Grass is green. I mean, you wouldn't know that though because you've never seen it or touched it before.
Horrible!
But anyway, because pure white light from the sun hits the grass absorbs all the reds, blues, purples, oranges, and yellows. But it doesn't absorb green light. Instead, the green is reflected off the grass, and when it enters your eye, the grass looks green. That's how different objects have different colors. And that's where you get stuff like the color wheel. You're probably wondering how this applies to art. I'll show you. When painting your artwork, you have to keep in mind the colors in your environment. They will affect the subject of your painting. Let's go back to the ball example. If the table is red, the red will bounce onto the ball off the table. So in order to apply this effect, just take a semi-transparent brush and lightly paint a medium saturated red onto the surface of the ball facing the table. So if you have a character swimming in the water, you have to remember the blue light reflecting off the surface of the water onto the character. If they are in a forest, remember the green light reflecting off the leaves onto the character. This is called bounce light or reflective light. So surprisingly, much more colors than you would probably initially thought are in the subjects of your paintings. Now, let's put everything we learned together. I just whipped up the sketch quickly just for the example in this video, but I'm going to shade the sketch and keep in mind everything I mentioned. Let's start with the base color. this isn't gonna be colored. This is gonna be in black and white. So the base color is gonna be like a medium gray. So like around here, maybe a little lighter actually. Let me make it a bit lighter. Okay, so yeah, this is where I would start. And different artists do different things. Some artists start with the light, some start with the shadows. I start with the shadows. So basically, all these areas here, like under the nose and stuff, would be in shadow. We're gonna start with the form shadows. So the form shadows, like I said, are the ones that are caused by the shape of the object. So, like the cheekbone here would be a form shadow. The eyelids here would be a form shadow. Under the lip here, like this muscle here, would be a form shadow. And let's start with those. So I will just take a dark, not black, but a dark gray, and I will paint in those shadows. Okay, so that's the cast shadows, the form shadows done. Now we're going to do the cast shadows. The cast shadows would be the places like under the eyebrow, because the eyebrow sticks out a little bit, the eyebrow sticks out a little bit like this. It kind of goes like that way. So this would be in shadow, and because it's sticking out, it's going to cast a shadow onto the rest of the face, kind of in this area. So that would be one cast shadow. Under the nose would be a cast shadow, because the nose, like the eyebrow, will cast a shadow onto the top of the lip. Same thing with the underneath of the lower lip, like this. All this would be in cast shadow. I kind of already started the cast shadow for the hair, but this would also technically be a cast shadow because the hair is putting a shadow on the neck. And the face, the whole face, would be casting a shadow onto the neck as well. So most of the neck would be in shadow. So yeah, let's start with the shadows, the cast shadows. Okay, so those are the shadows done for the most part, and now we're going to go into the light. So which parts would be hit with light? So obviously, the painting, the light is coming from the top here. So all of this would be in light, all of this would be in light, this would be in light, this would be in light, this would be in light. A very important point is that to note that the part facing directly the light, like the bridge of the nose, the top of the lip here, the top of the cheek, and the shoulder and the collarbone, those points would be the most in light. So they would have the brightest highlights, if that makes sense. So let's start with shading in the light. Okay, so that was just the general lighting in general. And now we're going to do the highlights. The highlights are, I forgot to mention this in the first half of the video, but the highlights, depending on the texture of what you're painting, might have a strong highlight. So skin has a medium strength highlight, and you don't want to go overboard with the highlight. Highlights are points where light is just concentrated. So like on the cheekbone, a lot of times where you would find highlights is when it shifts from shadow to light. So you would find highlights kind of like in the cheekbone area, like around here. You would find some on the tip of the nose. You would find one on the shoulder. You might even find a little bit on the collarbone. But you don't want to go too heavy on the highlights because it can make them almost look shiny, like they are wet sometimes, or it might look unnatural to a certain degree. So you want to keep the highlights minimal. You don't want to go overboard with them. Like I said, just dot them around in places that would be in light a little bit. Yeah, actually I don't even have to do a time lapse for this because you want to go overboard. So that's basically the highlights. Okay, now what we're gonna do is go into bounce light. Now bounce light can be very technical. Bounce light, what you want to do with bounce light, you don't want to put bounce light in a point that's already hit with light, like the top of the face like this. Bounce light, remember bounce light, remember bounce light, it goes to the atmosphere and bounces back. So it would kind of be in like the area with shadow, like under the jaw here would be in bounce light, by the arm here would be in bounce light, under the nose would be in bounce light. Okay, and what you want to do with bounce light, you don't want to go as bright as the part that's in light, but you also want to be a little bit brighter than the point that's in shadow. So we do the bounce light. Okay, so that's basically how I render my drawings. Yeah, there's just the small details like the eyelashes and the eyebrows left to do. I will shade the hair, but the hair, it doesn't have much lighting going on because hair, especially with like black hair, black people's hair, like with the curliness, it doesn't reflect that much light. So you can get away with the hair being all black so long as you know how to shade to color the hair properly, in the sense that you don't lose any of the volume and shape. But that's for a video for another day. So yeah, I'll just finish the piece and then that'll be it. Alright guys, well, I'm basically done rendering the piece. So this is the final result. One thing I forgot to mention as I was rendering, you have to remember when shading to mix in hard and soft edges. A hard edge would be like right here, where the shadow is very hard. You can see a very distinct line. Or like right here, or like right here or here. Those are hard edges here. But you also have to have soft edges too. A soft edge is where it's like a gradient. Like you can't really tell where the line is. So like this, it's like a gradient from light to dark. It slowly transitions from light to dark or dark to light, like that. Yeah, just that's basically all. I forgot to mention. Yeah, so that's the end of the video. There's so much about lighting and rendering that I didn't go into, because if I did, this video would be 3 hours long, and I'm not trying to put future me through all of that editing. So let me know if you want another part where I go more in depth on other stuff, like different textures, different surfaces. Surfaces respond to light differently, and how to shade them differently than other stuff. Or anything else pertaining to lighting you want to see, let me know. I'm just adding freckles because I like putting freckles on my character. It gives them personality. Okay, anyway. Anything you want to see pertaining to lighting, let me know. I might make a part 2. And that's the end of the video. Bye. You're still here? Why are you still here? Nah, don't leave now. Don't leave now. Since you're here, consider liking and subscribing, and probably clicking all the links in my description, checking them out. Yeah. Alright, you actually need to go now.